Podcasting is more than just talking, it's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
Part 2 of our BS with Bob Schmidt podcast. Geeta Nadkarni is my guest, and we're talking about messaging, and we're talking about getting that right message out there. Geeta, thanks a lot for joining me and continuing to join with me. We talked a little bit about endurance last week. We talked a little bit about keeping our gratitude out there and about making money. And you told a story about how a guy in 8 weeks made $100,000 by using your system. That to me just kind of blows my mind. That blows my mind.
And it's funny, he hasn't stopped. Like when we last spoke, he had a $65,000 deal on the table. And what's beautiful about the whole thing is that, you know, for some people listening, $100,000 in 8 weeks is not a big deal. It's just that for him, this was something he had never done before. And that's important because we all start where we're at. And what is beautiful about what Stephen accomplished is that the opportunities that he leveraged to create that income had been in front of him the whole time. This is what's so powerful. What you're looking for is looking for you even harder than you're looking for it, which is a bit of a, mind fuffle for some people. So all the opportunities that Stephen leveraged finally were right in front of him. He didn't see them for what they were because he had all these, mental blocks in his way, all these stories preventing him from seeing things. And you talked about how I'm a messaging coach, and yes, but you see how most messaging coaches work and all the books out there and all the literature out there and all the Google stuff out there. Messaging, the way most people understand it, is finding the words to express what you do. It's your elevator speech, the name of your program, your website, your web copy, your tagline, and that sort of stuff. And all of this, yes, is part of messaging. But to me, if that's where you live, if that is the only work that you do to find your true message, then the problem is that you're playing at the surface. You're finding words without doing the deep examination first. So it's like building a house on quicksand. You're stuck having to compete with everybody who's anything like you without getting really, really, really clear about the true value, the true outcomes that you create for your clients. So for example, we had somebody else, Michelle, who's a branding expert. She joined our program and she wanted to up-level in a major way. And she was selling at, not enough money, let's just put it that way. Not enough money. She was beginning to feel a little bit resentful, a little bit burnt out. And she was like, I know that what I do for people is so much bigger than branding, but I don't know how to express it. I don't know how to say it. She had, and everybody in our program goes through a version of this. It's the breakdown before the breakthrough. Everybody who is attempting this kind of up level, going from making just a few $1,000s a month or under 10, around between $5,000 and $10,000 a month, going all the way to now making $50,000 and $60,000 and $100,000 a month. That is a massive up level. There is a completely different way of thinking required. There is a huge amount of emotional stuff that comes up. And that is one of the reasons we work so deeply with people on a subconscious level while they implement the conscious strategic stuff in our program. We have mindset coaching every single week. We have, ongoing unlimited help desk for mindset. Specifically, we have self-hypnosis tracks that run in the program itself to help align the subconscious with the conscious, because that is where the breakthrough lies. And so what happened with Michelle is that first she freaked out. She froze. And what I tell everybody is you're not allowed to freak out and freeze. You have to hit the help desk because our deal is you're not a client. You're a success story. You're one of our success stories, which means we are 10,000% committed to getting you there. Hit us when you freeze. Hit that red button, like call us. Tell us what's going on with you. And that's what she did. So kudos to her for being vulnerable. We were able to reframe all of her limiting beliefs and show her exactly where she had gotten lost in the weeds. We got her out of the weeds. Next thing you know, she made her very first $8,000 sale.
Wow.
Just like that. It was right there in front of her. She had never been able to do that before.
Let me ask this. What about businesses that grow too fast? Because maybe that's a fear. Maybe that's something that's holding me back, but I've got a handful of clients, and I know that I can achieve success with them because I know that I'm able to get it done. But if I grow my list too quick, that maybe something's going to fall through the cracks, and I'm afraid of losing, some of the personality that's part of it, or part of the
Sure.
hands-on, if you will, and
Sure.
maybe it's a mindset for myself that I'm setting myself up
It's
for failure.
100%. It's 100% mindset, because you're absolutely right. If deep down, subconsciously, and you just surfaced this consciously now, which is great, because now we can deal with it and reframe it. But if deep down, subconsciously, you believed that growing your business too fast as compared to what? There are people who make multiple millions of dollars per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do just fine. They're very successful. People love them. So too fast as compared to what? So, well, that's one question to explore. But but what you really mean, I think, is too fast for you.
Right.
Too fast for your
exactly.
ability to handle.
Yes,
Too fast for
what
your
I mean.
ability to handle. And so the question that sort of comes up for me is, all right, if there are people out there who are making multiple millions of dollars per month and keeping their customers happy, then clearly it is possible. It is within the realm of possibility for you. It just means they're doing something differently than you. So then it might be a matter of systems, and you can see exactly why having this belief, and the other ways that this belief shows up is, I don't want to have to choose money over family. A lot of people believe that the only way for them to they're trapped in a dollars per hours mentality, right? It's all about their hourly rate, which means that at some point they will cap out, right? They will only be able to work X number of hours per week. And at some point it will become too much, and then they're stuck. They've hit an income ceiling. They cannot grow beyond that. So if you come from that mentality, then you will start to see your life as a sum negative game, as a sum zero game, where if you make money, it will cost you in terms of your health, your relationships, your family time, your free time, your freedom, which is ironic because the reason most people want to make money is for the freedom.
Right.
But then they put themselves in this weird spiral that just keeps them stuck. So it's the same thing with you. If you believe that having more clients is going to give you the money that you need for your freedom and to be able to serve them at a higher level, because let's put it this way, if you were making $30K a month, would you be able to serve your clients at a higher level?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, let me help you frame this. Would you be less stressed about making money?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that energy is now available for service instead of stress, yes?
Yeah.
There you go. So that's part of it. If you're making $30K a month and you're used to living with a lot less, so your systems don't cost all that much, especially if you have the kind of distilled systems that we teach, then in theory, you would be able to hire help so that the service aspect, the personality, as you called it, that high-touch aspect of things would be continued to be fulfilled. It just wouldn't all fall on you, yes?
Yeah. Yes. I see what you're doing here.
You see how? But this is my job. This
Right.
is what I do. I get to do this every day. It is the most empowering, fun, exciting thing.
I was going to say, I could see where fear would come into that, though, because, all of a sudden you're saying this, and it's like, oh, that's a possibility. But then all of a sudden, I felt a little anxious, to be honest with you. I'm like, oh, no, maybe it's a possibility.
Yes, exactly. Because and exactly, this is exactly why we have to dismantle and re-examine and rewrite those core beliefs before we give you the system that's going to take you to that place. Because otherwise, you're going to become like those child actors who self-destruct when they get to adolescenthood, right? You have all the success in the world, you have all the money in the world, you have all the fame in the world, and all it makes you want to do is die. And I would never want that for anybody. But that's what happens when you don't have the emotional resilience first and then build a business of abundance from that place as opposed to from a place of lack, right?
Yeah, I can totally see this, and it seems simple to me. It seems super simple.
Yeah, and just in your case, I mean, this idea of making $30K a month. So there are a couple of threads that I would like to pull both for you and for our listening audience, which is if I say, okay, hey, Bob, go from making whatever it is you're making right now to $30K, and 30 is a random number that I pick. A lot of our clients make way more than that. $30K a month, which may be unfathomable to you at this point. So there is an anxiety. What the hell will be required of me at $30K per month is the underlying emotion, 100%.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
There you go. That's part of it. The second part of it is, oh my God, how will I possibly deliver on any promises that are worth that kind of money. How? I'm not sure I'm up for this. This feels way too threatening because you've been used to playing small. You've been used to playing small and safe. Now I'm asking you to step into your true power. I'm asking you to step onto a bigger stage than you've ever done in your whole entire life if you've never made 30K before in a month, right? That is what is actually required of you. If you step onto that stage with all of this anxiety bubbling inside you without any tools or coaching or help and support to help you resolve it and reframe it and then give you ongoing abilities to deal with it as it comes up, because it's always layers and layers and layers, then what will happen is you might hit that goal one time, maybe. It will bring all kinds of negative stories with it. And this is just your lens, right? There will be positive. You may not see that. You may not notice it. You may choose to ignore it. All of this stuff will come up, and then you'll be like, no, I tried it. I did it. I'm not interested in money. I bet you there's listeners right now who are like, yeah, I used to make money, and that sucked, and I was burnt out, and it cost me my family, and my marriage fell apart, and my health fell apart, and da-da-da-da. And that's basically the only way that money will ever, that's what money looks like. You think those people are ever going to make money?
Well, no, it goes back to what we talked about in last week's episode, that as soon as you stop believing in something, that's when it starts to fall apart.
Correct.
That's when everything starts to crumble. And I'm thinking that if somebody's saying, well, the proverbial Schmidt hit the fan, once I did that, then then basically you've destined yourself to that, right?
Correct. And it is literally your lens.
How do you break out of that feeling then? How can you say to somebody that's listening right now that you can get into that $30,000 a year, or I'm sorry, $30,000 a month just by doing this? How do you break them out of that negative thought process that they have that leads them to think that they can't do it?
Well, part of it is to do what I just did, which is to help them examine the emotions that lie under the holy crap, no, that first visceral tightening that you feel in your body, that you called it anxiety. I had this feeling of anxiety. So thank you for calling it. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that. Most people wouldn't necessarily share that, right? So if you share that, you put that out there, and you say, okay, that triggered me. So first you accept that this is something that your higher self, your soul, however you want to call it, however you choose to articulate it, your deepest, most knowing self has brought something up for you to examine. Now, again, I don't believe that this process is best done alone, because we all, myself included, operate in our blind spots. Like I said, I have multiple coaches for different areas of my life. I have fitness coaches, I have business coaches, I have mindset and relationship coaches. I have no shame or anxiety around hiring help to get me to see what I am unable to see because I am way too close to the problem. This allows me so much ease, so much relaxation. It allows me to break out of this place of self-judgment, and a lot of suffering for high achievers especially comes from, so first of all, there's the layer of, damn it, I don't have this figured out already. Why don't I have this figured out already? I should have had this figured out already. Why am I even feeling afraid? Successful people don't feel afraid. Successful people somehow power through it, and why am I paralyzed? So not only are you paralyzed, and there's this, the obstacle of that, but now you're adding layers of suffering with all the stories that are stacked on top of it. To have somebody to peel back those stories and give you the tools with which to breathe again, with which to look around again. They basically, how when you get very, very adrenalized, you have tunnel vision.
Oh yeah.
Everything, or your peripheral vision just melts away. It's all you can see is that one focal point. That is what people who are afraid, and that is what people who are stressed and anxious, that is what their lives become. Now, when you're in that place, you also have less control than you ever would in other situations over what it is you choose to focus on. So not only is your vision very, very narrow, but now you may focus it on the wrong thing, i.e., I'm never going to make it.
There's that self-doubt again,
Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, the most successful people in the world, the Oprahs, the Kate Winslets, the Maya Angelou's of the world, all have imposter syndrome. everybody who is attempting any kind of up level. So here, you wanted something helpful for our listening audience. Here it is. Anybody who's attempting any kind of up level. So you have two choices. If you've been the kind of person who rests on your laurels, if you're like, hey, I was a successful person once upon a time, and I had this XYZ success, and I've kind of been coasting on it for the rest, for now, and this is my choice. I'm going to continue to coast on it for as long as it will let me. That's one choice. The other choice is, I had the success, I've been coasting on it for a bit, and now I'm ready for the new thing. Now I'm ready for this whole other level of game, of play, of excitement, of abundance, of whatever. That's you leaving your little hermit crab shell that you're comfortable in, that you feel safe in, that you feel competent in, and being butt naked in public, waddling across to the new shell. That is freaking terrifying. And if you didn't feel scared and didn't feel self-doubt, then you're not connected to your feelings, quite frankly. Because there ain't nobody who is emotionally sound in this world who doesn't get completely terrified in that place. Doesn't matter how much money or success they've had in the past.
The way that you just explained that is the way that I explained when I was on the air every day. Because I used to do a 3-hour radio show every single day. And somebody said, it'd be easy to get up there and do that. I said, no, basically you're exposed. And I use that as an example. I said that you're standing there naked every single day, and you're up there trying to get people to, to not pay attention to the nakedness, but to pay attention to the other stuff that you're talking about. And so it's kind of nice to hear you say to hear you say that and put it into that term. Let me ask you this, Geeta: how did you get the knowledge? What inspired you to to jump forward and to you yourself do this?
I got help. I made some pretty humongous investments financially to get the most skilled mentorship that I could possibly afford to crush the goals that I had in front of me. So when my business was kind of falling apart and basically being rebirthed is what happened, I was like, I need a very different system. I need a different business model. So on one hand, I called up all my clients, and this is the continuation of last week's conversation, where I found out, like, if people are building multi-million-dollar businesses using our system, I want to know what the heck it is that I'm missing that, and that my other students are missing. What is it that they have in addition to our system that's helping them get to that point? And I realized very quickly that it was these three pieces: clarity of mindset and messaging. So they're masters at messaging, but it all comes from this place of deep clarity in their mindset. That, all of them have coaches. There's not one of them that I spoke to that didn't have multiple coaches that they paid quite a lot of money for. But that money comes back so fast it makes your head spin, right? So they all had that. They had that clarity. They had help to get them and keep them in that place of clarity. Then they had simplicity in their selling systems. They didn't have this big complicated mess of funnels and online thingamabobs and gimmicks and upsells and downsells and all that other jazz that we had built into our business. They had a simple business, and they had a predictable selling system based on that business. And then they had the ability to attract new leads, and this is what we were teaching them how to do, which was to get massive amounts of PR and then do it in the right way where people would be the right people. Not everybody. This isn't for everybody. What I do is not for everybody. It's really for a very specific subset of coaches and consultants and service providers who are hungry for that next level of abundance and are tired of being stressed out and playing at this like small level where they know that they're under indexing, and that being out of integrity with their highest self is a pain that is greater than any other pain, and they're done. They want it to end. So that's who I work with. So knowing how to structure media to act as a dog whistle to these ideal clients so that they can come in, have a phone call if they're the right fit, enroll. That's what we do. So that's as simple as that. It's 3 steps. It's simple, doesn't make it easy. And what we do is we provide a huge amount of support so that it's not just go watch this video, fill out the template, and then hopefully you've understood it the way I intended it. We know that people's lenses will gum up their understanding and implementation.
Right.
So we're there to hold hands. We're there to rewrite. My entire team of copywriters rewrites people's messaging, pushes them further to say, no, this is still surface. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. Let me ask you some more questions. Let me ask you some more questions. So you're not there doing this by yourself. That's what makes all the difference.
So you're helping people to find the pain and then to help them help their clients alleviate that
Correct.
pain. Huh.
Exactly right.
Now, do you have a book that you've written?
I do not have a book, and I'll tell you why I don't have a book. I did start writing a book for Baby Got Booked, which is my do-it-yourself PR program back in the day. But I don't know, there was something about that, even though I have an outline, I have most of the chapters sort of written out, it never really gelled. There is a book here, I believe, because this work is so deep and so juicy and so nourishing. I think that there is a book here, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't need it. I didn't need to write a book in order to serve my clients the way that I served them. A lot of people, at least in my world, in the speaking world and the consultant world, write books to get more clients. And books are time-consuming and expensive to write, frankly, unless you get a publishing deal. And even that, I would need to hire somebody to help me do that because I don't know how to do that, right? So I'm just like, well, if I found a shortcut by hacking audiences, by getting massive amounts of press and then having the right selling systems and mindset in place, well, I'm just going to do that. I have small children. My bandwidth is only, it only goes so far. The book will come when I'm ready to have my next baby.
How many hours?
It will be my next baby.
That makes sense. Geeta, how many hours a week? Let's ask it this way. How many hours a day do you think you work?
On or in? Those are two different answers. I work about 35 hours a week. I don't work on weekends. I don't work on on evenings either, unless we have something very specific or a big special project, and that's a very, very finite amount of time, or there's a big tech issue or something like that. Otherwise, on a day-to-day basis, I don't. We actually turn off our phones when our kids come home, and our 6-year-old is allowed to shoot us with Nerf guns if we use our phones during family time. So we have accountability built in.
You gotta make sure you put on your goggles before you pick up the phone.
So we don't. And then, after, and I typically wake up very, very early in the morning to meditate and do my own mindset work because I practice everything that I preach. So by the time I'm reading my kid books at like 7:30, I'm ready to fall asleep with my mouth open.
Right.
So I don't overwork. I don't live that life. I want the freedom. I'm very clear about that. And I've built my business from that place of clarity. So what I know is that I need my clients to have a fabulous experience that is truly, truly life-changing. I'm unable and unwilling to do all of that work alone, so I have a team. And I have the best team ever. So I'm actually able to hire super specialists who are able to come in and do things that I would not even be able to do. I don't have the skills, literally, for them. I don't have the training for them. But by being clear that I want freedom and financial success, I was able to create freedom and financial success for the people that work with me too. Because now they're paid handsomely. They have this fabulous opportunity. They have the same kind of flex time, flex schedule lifestyle that I have. And I'm able to do more for my clients. Does that make sense?
It makes
That's
total
why
sense.
I'm a true believer that everybody should up their prices. Everybody should make more money.
Well, Geeta, let me ask you this: then.
It.
Was it hard as the boss to let some of that stuff go and to hire somebody to do the things that you were doing but weren't doing as to the best of your ability? Because I think that letting that stuff go sometimes is a tough thing. It's a tough thing for an entrepreneur.
It can be. A lot of entrepreneurs can be control freaks. But again, that control comes from a place of fear. It comes from a lack of trust. The opposite of control is trust. So I'm lucky in that has never been a core challenge for me. In fact, I have this uncanny ability to find just amazing A+ players, partly because I trust that they will come to me. And I always have. I mean, knock on wood, I just always have.
That's a great mindset to have. Geeta Nadkarni. I'm sorry about the Geeta Nadkarni. That could be the whole podcast, is me trying to get your name correctly. That's one of my biggest frustrations about doing this job is mispronouncing names. So Geeta Nadkarni. I
used to do live TV and radio, so I totally feel your pain.
Ah.
It's no big deal. Honestly, I live in Montreal, where most a lot of people speak French. I lived in Singapore, where most people spoke Mandarin or Hokkien Chinese, and both French and Chinese, the G sound of Geeta is pronounced J. So everybody calls me Geeta. So the fact that you're even calling me Geeta is a win right there. It's fine. Right. I remember in Singapore, it was hilarious because I would call and leave voicemails. When I was working there as a journalist, I'd be like, oh, I'm calling to speak to so-and-so. They're not available. Okay, can I leave a voicemail? Oh, can I leave a message? Yes. What's your name? And then I'd spell it. And they'd be like, what? And I said Geeta, and they'd be like, what? Can you spell it? And I spell it, and they're like, oh, Geeta. Like, I made the mistake, right? At some point, I just gave up, and At some point, I gave up, and I was like, you know what? My name's Geeta. Just Geeta. There you go.
How do we find you? Because I want to make sure we get that information out there before we run out of time here again.
Yes, for sure. So the best thing to do is, if you're on Facebook, to go find the Messaging That Makes Money Facebook group. So that's easy. On Facebook, Messaging That Makes Money. Otherwise, just go to impactwithinfluence.com. So impactwithinfluence.com. If you want to watch the free masterclass where I lay everything out and give you case studies and examples of exactly how to apply all these principles in your own business, then that's really simple. It's impactwithinfluence.com/masterclass. impactwithinfluence.com/masterclass.
impactwithinfluence.com/masterclass. Right?
Exactly.
Geeta, thank you very much for taking your time and spending it here with
My
us.
My pleasure.
It's the BS with Bob Schmidt podcast, talking entrepreneurship, business, and marketing. The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.